excited because I'm starting a new message, a new series of messages, and it's called The Spiritual Disciplines, the process of spiritual growth. You know, it is going to be challenging. It's going to stretch you. And so I want just to let you know that it doesn't mean I don't love you. Doesn't mean I don't like you. But I need to challenge you. I need to be challenged. I was challenged last week. I was at pastor's retreat last week, and I was challenged and I was stretched. We need that, and that is actually my role. That is my job. I'm the pastor of the church, and I need to challenge and stretch you, or I'm not doing my job. Okay? But don't take it personally. I still love you, and I still care for you, and I'm going to be there for you. But, you know, we all need to be stretched. We need to make disciples. God calls us to go and make disciples. That's what he's actually called, not just me, although that's my primary role. And so, you know, for me, leading the church is making disciples of Jesus. That's what I'm called to do. Matthew 28, verse 18. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. Disciples of Jesus, not disciples of me. My role is not to get you to like me. That would be making a disciple of me. I hope you like me, but in some ways, it doesn't really matter whether you like me or not. I hope you do. But that's not my primary purpose. My primary purpose is not to make you like me. My primary purpose is to disciple you to follow Jesus and to be obedient to him. And that's for me as well. I have to disciple myself, and other people have to disciple me as well. And so spiritual disciplines, the process of spiritual growth, as I said at the start of the year, this year is devoted to helping us all grow spiritually, because we all need to grow. We need to constantly grow. Couple of things to mention. It's not automatic. Spiritual growth does not happen automatically as a Christian. It's not about the years you've become a Christian. Who's been a Christian for more than 31 years? Everyone who's been a Christian more than 31 years has been a Christian longer than the Apostle Paul. Isn't that amazing? He was, if you go by the historical dating, he was a Christian for 31 years. He was a Jew, got converted. That's when he became a Christian. And then he died. Right? But he is, let me say, more spiritual than we will probably ever be. Now I know God used him especially to use him to write scripture. I know that, which is unique. None of us fit into that category. I get all that. But the point I'm making is that we don't just become more spiritual as we've been Christian longer so many years. It doesn't happen automatically. How do we become spiritually mature, or how do we grow spiritually? It is by the process of practicing the spiritual disciplines. So I'm going to go through each time I speak and talk about a spiritual discipline. Maybe some weeks will be more than one. And so that's the purpose, is for us to start practicing the spiritual disciplines and integrate them more into our life. The more we can integrate spiritual disciplines in our life, the more we allow God to be able to change us and grow us. The start of last week, I gave everyone an invitation through the WhatsApp. I asked you to meditate on the passage of scripture I posted and to share your thoughts. Do you know what that was? That was an invitation to you to practice a spiritual discipline. I put a passage up there and I said, what I invite you to do is to read it, and then over 3 days, and then post your thoughts up. That is a spiritual practice. It's just one of them. And so what was really interesting to me is that only a few people did that. Well, at least only a few posted it up. Some people, well, I don't know, some people did it, but they just didn't post it up. So that invitation that I gave you to do that is the same invitation that God gives all of us to practice spiritual disciplines. He doesn't force us. He invites us. We have to choose to participate. We can decide not to, but we won't grow. And so just like some people decided not to involve themselves in my invitation, to accept my invitation, God does the same thing. He invites us into it, but we have to say yes. Now, what I'm going to do now is I want to increase your self-awareness. Okay, because this is going to help you to grow. Right? This is going to help you to grow. I want you to think about your internal emotion reaction to my invitation. Because this may well reveal your emotional reaction to God inviting you into practicing a spiritual discipline. Here's 4 or 5 possible responses. Now, here's the thing. There's no judgment in this. I don't know what's in your heart. I don't want to make a judgment. I don't need to. I'm just proposing these for you, so you can reflect on your own emotional reaction, and for those who didn't participate, maybe get an understanding of why you didn't participate in this spiritual practice, if you, in fact, you didn't. You could have said, yes, I love doing things like that. I'm going to do it. You jumped in and you decided to practice a spiritual discipline. Fantastic. Pastors love people like that because they feel supported. I like that because I feel like what I'm saying is hitting home. People are participating. Any leader likes people to go, yes, jump in. We love that. But we're realistic. We know not everyone's like that. So some people, go, yes, I love that, I'm going to do it. Some people go, yes, I'm going to do that to support you, in particular, John, because I don't want to feel like, I'm not supportive. And it's like, yeah, that's good. It's not as good as the first one, but at least you want to support me. That's good. I love that. Here's another possibility. You saw it and you ignored it. Or maybe you didn't even look at the WhatsApp. You just don't even look at the WhatsApp. The reason may have been disinterest. I'm just not interested. Okay? Do you realize you're not interested? That's the point I'm making. Maybe you're just neglectful. You just don't really care about spiritual disciplines. So I'm not judging you. I'm just suggesting possibilities here. This is for you to get some self-awareness. Here's another possibility. You justify saying, oh, look, I was just too busy. And maybe you were. Maybe it was just a bad week. It was a super busy week. Normally I would do it, but this week it was just too much. That could have been it. No judgment. We all have weeks like that. I've had weeks like that. Here's the thing. Where does God sit in your priority of all the things you needed to do in the week? Is like God second on the list? Is he fifth on the list? He's on 10th on the list. Okay? Here's a really, really real thing. Some people might be experiencing so much stress in their lives, they can't even work through that stuff. Maybe some people are close to burnout. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're suffering from mild depression. Can I tell you, if you are, you need help. It's not about, doing one extra thing because John wants that. It's actually going, I'm suffering with depression. I need help. So if you're suffering from mild depression, if you're suffering from stress, or you're on the verge of burnout, come and talk to me. I can help you. You need help. That's a very real thing. I don't want to minimize that. That's real. Or it was like, yeah, look, God's not a priority for me. It could be just as simple as that. I don't want to make a judgment. I'm just suggesting possibilities. Here's a fourth one. Maybe you did it, but you're too scared to put it on the WhatsApp because you're fearful about what people will think. Oh, look, am I going to say the right thing? Is this what all people think? I remember when I started to put things on, post things on Facebook, trying to be transparent. Several years ago, it was after I did soul care, I was super fearful because I was fearful of what people might think of me. But after I did it for a while, I just got over it. Didn't care anymore. I just thought, you know what? I need to be transparent for myself and other people. I had a pastor come up to me at Pastor's Retreat. He's a pastor in Queensland, part of our denomination. And he said, because he's one of my Facebook friends, right? And, you know, when I post stuff on Facebook, I get a couple of people putting a like, you know, maybe not more than 2 or 3, right? I don't care. I don't count the likes. I couldn't care less if no one liked it. That's not why I do it. I don't do it for likes, right? He goes, I know you don't get many likes, but do not stop putting them up. We need to hear people who are willing to be transparent. And I said to him, yeah, I don't do it for the like. I don't care if anyone likes it. But I know people need to hear that. I want to empower other people to be the same. Because I know there's freedom in the light. There's freedom in being transparent. There's freedom in not caring what people think. You know, I always was fearful in the past. I was always worried about what people think. I don't care now. I just want to help people. If my transparency can help people, I will be even more transparent. You know, if my transparency doesn't help people, then I won't be. Right? It's about how can I help people. So maybe it was fear of judgment. Maybe it's like, oh, I don't know if it'll be perfect, and I need to be perfect. Perfectionism, that's a curse. No one's perfect. And I said, look, it's not about the theological correct answer. It's about what God spoke to you. Or it could be resistance. Don't you tell me what to do. You know, sometimes I used to be like that, right? The pastor'd say, you know, you want to say, look, I want you to do this. And inside me I'd go, don't tell me what to do. I'm my own person. You know. That's just pride. That's insecurity, actually. I was insecure, right? It was a curse. You know, it wasn't a sign of my own strength and independence. It was a curse. I was resistant. Now, I tried to hide it because I knew it wasn't acceptable to appear resistant, you know. You know, in church, I mean, but inside I could feel the resistance. Which, you know, when I got alone with God, as I grew in God, I learned, you know, that's an issue. That's insecurity. I need to deal with that. So sometimes we go, you know, the fact that I'm asking you to do something, you know, you could go, oh. No, just embrace. Embrace my purpose. My purpose is to help you. You know, and often that can be happen because our trust was breached when we were young. Maybe an authority figure hurt us. There's reasons why we become suspicious and mistrusting. Because someone's hurt us along the way. Maybe an authority figure has really hurt us, and so we don't trust those people in positions that we perceive have authority. And so our natural inclination is to resist. But we need to break through that because we won't grow. You know, for a church to be effective, we have to be of one heart and one mind together. A spirit of unity. Paul talked about that all the time in the New Testament. You know, we all have our own views and opinions, but we have to find the mind of Christ together and be in one heart and mind and follow God. That's how we become effective and powerful as the people of God together. So there's just some thoughts about the spiritual disciplines, because you know what will happen? God will challenge you. Hey, I want you to start doing this. And you need to be self-aware enough to know why you may not be willing to participate in the spiritual discipline he's asking you to do. Become aware, because if you can be honest with yourself, you can deal with it. Like, we all have issues, right? We all feel like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I have that. But if I identify what that issue is, I can really bring it before God and be honest and say, Lord, I don't want to do that. But help me. I want to be willing. Help me uncover what the issue is there that I need deliverance from, that I need to be set free from, because I want to be obedient. I want to be cooperative. I want to be a good follower of you. And so this is just really a part of my introduction. Spiritual disciplines and spiritual character, they're connected. Spiritual disciplines build our spiritual character. And character is who we are now versus who we should be. Who we are now versus who we should be. Which means that there's a gap. I'm just going to read out a quote from a book called Finding Our Way Again. It was actually part of my readings for the study I'm doing. He says, we need to mind the gap between the character we want to have and the character we are actually developing. Spiritual practices are actions within our power that help us narrow the gap. They help us become someone weighty, about not letting what happens to us deform us or destroy us, about realizing that what we earn or accumulate means nothing compared to what we become and who we are. Spiritual practices could be called life practices or humane practices, because they help us practice being alive and humanly so. They develop not just character, but also aliveness, alertness, wakefulness, and humanity. The sheer value of being alive seems to be what keeps us from getting up after our last stupid mistake or heartbreaking disappointment or shattering trauma or surprising success. Thinking, okay, now that's behind me, let's get on with life. What's next? What he's saying is that we all go through difficulties in life. Spiritual practices help us become human the way God intended us to be. If I think about the difficulties I've had in my journey with God, I completely resonate with what he's saying. Spiritual practices has what's got me up instead of quitting. And you know, in the past, I haven't developed spiritual practices like I could have. So for many years, prayer and reading the Bible has been, I've shared this before, they were the two spiritual practices that my pastor originally talked about. They were the only ones he really talked about. He also maybe talked about fasting sometimes. So that's what I did. I prayed and I read the Bible. And they are essential. And so they were the only things I knew to do. Now there's a lot more spiritual practices and I can do a lot more. And I think you need a lot more than that. But I remember coming to this church, the first 2 years was a massacre for me. Emotionally. It was a massacre. That's how I felt. The only thing that kept me from quitting was prayer. That was it. It was the only thing that kept me from quitting. and encouragement from outside the church. I'm just being honest now. The spiritual, if I did not have prayer, if prayer was not something I had practiced, I would not still be here. It just kept me there. Now, I've gone to a much higher level of prayer now, as I should have been. But even at the basic level that I had then, it was the spiritual practices that kept me from quitting. And we all face challenges. And since then I've faced challenges, and I will face challenges in the future. It's the spiritual practices in my life and in our lives that keep us going. Even when we have successes, we can get prideful. We can start thinking it's about us. But spiritual practices remind us it's not about us. It wasn't actually us. It was God working through us. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had the success. So it doesn't matter if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. We need the spiritual practices to develop our character. To develop our character when we make the right decision. When we're under pressure, we make the right decision instead of the wrong one. And we will make wrong decisions. But hopefully we'll make right decisions more than we make wrong decisions.